a very, very small percentage of people have ever been in a fight.
Yeah.
And they don't, and especially one where they really thought they might be killed or get the living shit kicked out of them.
Yeah.
And so they look at it and they're like, oh, well, you just, all you have to do is hit the guy just hit him once.
Yeah. The one
And
hitter
it's
quitter.
Like, no, you win a fight by using considerably more force than the other guy did.
Yeah.
That's who wins the fight, is not, it's the guy that uses more force. Yeah. I remember when I was in law school, I had a professor who was very anti-law enforcement.
Good for him.
She,
Her.
hairy armpitted lesbian from Oregon who hated cops.
Don't say shit when I'm taking a drink.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I actually got a spit take out of there. And she actually ended up being one of my favorite people, and I asked her to edit all of my articles because she had a very different perspective than I did. But she was talking about the Rodney King case, and she was like, I don't understand. All these cops are black belts. I don't understand why they can't just take this guy into custody. And I raised my hand and said, Professor, like, did you say that you think all these cops are black belts? And she said, yeah. I said, almost none of them are. They receive, at most a few weeks of training on fighting. But she sincerely believed that, now it would be everybody's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
Nope.
And you don't get to punch the guy one time and have him quit.
Yeah.
If he's a motivated adversary, you literally may have to kill him. Yeah. And you see that all the time in law enforcement, both in fights. I mean, I remember I worked on a case where an officer got into a fight with a guy who was dusted. He's on PCP. And he literally beat that guy to a pulp and caved in his skull, and the guy was still fighting.
Damn.
And people don't understand that, like, human beings are really resilient. Yep. And if they're motivated, especially if they're
chemically
crazy,
chemically
crazy,
motivated,
chemically suicidal, like, it's not going to be simple. Yep. And I think that we need to spend more time talking about that. So then when it does happen and there's a little too much and I'm not saying George Floyd, because I have yet to meet anybody who's trying to defend George Floyd.
No. Yeah.
There's clearly a point, like the Rodney King video. There's clearly a point, like you got me, you got it. I'm willing to put a knee on a neck trying to subdue him. Clearly there's a point where he is subdued. Then there's a point where he's unconscious. Then there's a point where he's not breathing. Anywhere in there, feel free to take your knee off.
Yeah. This is one of the things I recommend to anybody that looks at a use of force issue. First, watch the video muted. I don't want you to hear anything. The least you know about the situation, the better. Watch it muted. And I challenge other cops to do this. This is how I would review use of force that would come up the pipe, for my job as a use of force person. I would watch the video muted because I don't want to be biased on anything. I just want to see the actions. So that's how I'd watch it the first couple times through if I needed to, more times, but I'd watch it. And I watched the George Floyd thing and I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, I'm watching the way that this guy's shifting his weight. At first, even though his leg was over the neck, I'm like, all right, I see that he's got his body weight over his toe, not his knee. Like, I'm seeing the shift. And then there comes a point where I see him looking over at the crowd and the weight distribution shifts and it doesn't go back. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm like, what the fuck? So then I listen to it and my opinion is that was more about the crowd. He was trying to show them that they are not going to tell him how to do his job. And he was showing out a little bit for the rookies that were there and saying, this is how you handle this shit. And it fucked him, as it should have. So,
yeah, as it should have. And that's the thing is, like, in the end, one thing I concluded while I was in law school and working on con law cases is I'm a constitutionalist. Like, people forget that the Constitution doesn't die on the hill of the federal government. It dies at the local law enforcement level, right? It wasn't the SS that rounded up the Jews. Right. It was the local police.
Yep.
So, like, we do need to look very carefully at our government. Anytime our government uses force, we need to look at it and say, was this reasonable? Was this fair? We also need to give the benefit of the doubt to the cop because he's in a difficult situation. We know, retrospectively that George Floyd wasn't going to fight anymore. You don't know that when it's happening.
Right.
So there does have to be a certain presumption of kind of innocence on the part of the cop. But the challenge for law enforcement is we've kind of gone away from subsequent remedial measures, right? We've kind of gone away from, I remember when I started my career, you'd go to a debrief, and the debrief would be this very candid, open, here's what we screwed up.
Yeah.
That's changed.
Yeah, we call them TAC debriefs.
Yes,
I mean,
and that has changed now.
Yeah, my unit still does those. It's a religious thing. I mean,
but see, that's a cultural thing, and we because we're going back and murdering everything a cop does after the fact, we're putting the agency in a position where we go, oh, George Floyd happened. Okay, that entire department is bad. All those cops are criminals. They're all racists, and so we put the department in a position where it has to defend itself. Recently there was a no-knock dynamic entry in Houston that went very sideways. And to the credit of the chief, he came out and said, yeah, no, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But we're not seeing that much. When Breonna Taylor happened, we